Hi guys, so today we're going to be applying systems of linear inequalities through word problems. Okay, so there are many situations that arise in business and engineering that require systems of linear inequalities. The region or the area in the XY plane, the graph, that solves the system often represents all of the viable solutions to the system. So being able to visualize it through a graph can be extremely helpful. Okay, so let's get started with our first one here. Okay. So Frank is going shopping for wrapping paper and bows. He needs at least one bow, and he has a total of $3 to spend. So wrapping paper costs 25 cents, and bows cost $1. We're going to write a system of linear inequalities to show how many rolls of wrapping paper and how many bows Frank can buy. And then we're going to graph it here. Okay. So here we're going to start by defining our variables. Okay. So I'm going to make X the number of bows we can have. And I'm going to make Y the number of rolls of wrapping paper. And the reason why I determined this is based on the inequalities, based on what I'm looking for, right? Because I want to know how many rolls of wrapping paper and how many bows. Okay, so how many bows here is X. And then how many rolls of wrapping paper here is Y. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to now label my graph. So X here, right, is number of bows, so number of bows. Okay. And then Y is number of rolls of wrapping paper, so number of rolls of wrapping paper. Okay. So let's figure out what we know. So we know that he needs at least one bow. So that's a thing about bows. So he needs at least one bow. And so what that means is if X is the number of bows, X has to be greater than or equal to 1. Then the other thing we know is how much he has to spend, right? So if he has a total of $3 to spend, maybe let's do purple. If he has a total of $3 to spend, what we know is that the amount of money he uses has to be less than or equal to 3. Here. Okay, so what is he spending up money on? Wrapping paper and bows. So if if bows cost $1, that means 1x would be how much he spends on bows, right? If he buys one bow, that's 1 times 1, so $1. If he buys 2 bows, 1 times 2, $2, right, etc. Okay, the other thing is wrapping paper. So in addition, he is also spending on wrapping paper. Wrapping paper we know costs 25 cents. And so 0.25 Y. Okay. And so let's get graphing. So I'm going to graph this in red. Okay. So X greater than or equal to 1. So make this 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc., right? So here, X is greater than or equal to 1. That is right here. Okay. And then I'd be shading this side. Because here are where X is greater than or equal to 1. Okay. Then let's graph the other one. So here I'm actually gonna graph using intercepts. Okay, so x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. Okay, that gives me 1x plus 0 less than or equal to 3. So that means x is less than or equal to 3, which really means that my x-intercept is 3, 0. Okay. So 3, 0. I'm going to graph that in green. So this one I'm graphing in green. So 3, 0. Okay. Then I'm going to find my y-intercept. Okay, so that's when I plug in 0 for x. So this is 0 plus 0.25y. That means 0.25y is less than or equal to 3. And when I divide by 0.25, that gives me 12. Okay. And so that means my y-intercept here is 0, 12. So if I label this 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, my y-intercept is here. Okay. Then I just need to connect. Okay. And if I test my point with 0, 0, 0 plus 0.25 times 0 less than or equal to 3. 0.25 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Is 0 less than or equal to 3? Yes, it is. So I'm going to shade this side here where 0, 0 is. And what we can see is that the overlapping section is right here. So any combination of this amount of bows and wrapping paper is my solution. Okay. So here we can see that, oh, he can buy 2 bows and no wrapping paper. He can buy 1 bow and 1 wrapping paper, 1 bow and 2 wrapping papers, etc. Right, and these would all work here. Okay. So here, let's practice a little bit more about writing these inequalities. So Michael here is on a budget for the remaining items for his daughter's birthday party, where he can spend at most $50. So that's important. That's a total. So we know he can spend at most $50. Okay. He plans on buying decorations where the balloons cost $2 each and the favors cost $5 each. He intends to buy less than 30 items. Okay. So here we know he's spending money on 2 things: balloons and favors. So we can just make one of them balloons, one of them number of favors. Okay. We know that balloons cost $2. We know that favors cost $5. Okay. And then the other thing we know is that he intends to buy less than 30 items. So those are some totals. Okay, so we know he's buying balloons plus favors, and however many he buys of each of them, total have to be less than 30 items. Then the other thing we know, he's obviously spending money, right? He can only spend $50, so it has to be less than or equal to $50. If that's the most he can spend, it has to be less than or equal to that. Okay. And the things he's spending money on, balloons is $2, so 2x tells us how much he spends on balloons. Okay. Favors are $5, so 5y will tell us how much he's spending on those favors. Okay. And here are my 2 inequalities. X plus y is less than 30, and 2x plus 5y is less than or equal to 50. Okay. So I'm going to have you try this one on your own, write the system of inequality, and then come and check your answer. So here's what you should have gotten. You should have defined your variables. X is the number of hours at your first job. Y is the number of hours at your second job. Okay, so the total of hours you work has to be less than 40. So that's why it's x plus y here. The number of hours at first job and second job have to total to be less than 40. Right? Then the other total we know is how much money we want to earn. So since we want to earn at least $200, whatever we make has to be greater than or equal to that. Okay? So how much money are we making? We're making $10 an hour at our first job, so that's why it's 10x, since x is hours at our first job. 10x will give me how much money I earned there. And since we're earning $8 at our second job, 8 times y will give us how much we're earning at our second job. And that totals to be at least 200, so that means it has to be greater than or equal to 200. That's it for today. Have a great rest of the day. Bye, guys.